Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide, a reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that on July 2nd, 1776, the Second Continental Congress adopted the Lee Resolution that proposed the colonies ought to be free and independent states? Learn that John Adams believed July 2nd would become the most celebrated day in American history. Learn how Congress appointed a committee to turn the resolution into a formal declaration that included Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, Robert Livingston, and John Adams. Discover that Jefferson's draft became the Declaration of Independence and was approved on July 4th, becoming the official date of the Declaration of Independence. Imagine realizing you've celebrated your birthday on the wrong day your entire life.
Oh, that would be completely disorienting.
Right. Now multiply that feeling of disorientation by like 330 million people.
Yeah, that's a massive scale.
I mean, every single firework launched, every community parade you go to, every July 4th barbecue you have ever attended is built on this, well, a massive historical blind spot.
It really is. We treat the 4th of July like it's the definitive, undeniable moment the United States was born.
Exactly. But when you actually dig into the historical notes, the original quotes and the timelines, a very different story emerges.
And one of history's most fascinating misalignments, honestly.
Right, because the actual mechanics of how America broke from the British Empire happened days earlier.
Yeah.
And it happened in this highly contested, deeply terrified boardroom.
Yeah, we are so culturally conditioned to associate the birth of the nation with the 4th of July.
We really are.
But the actual gritty reality of how independence was achieved and exactly when the definitive legal shift occurred has been almost completely overshadowed by the mythology of the holiday itself.
We've basically separated the action from the celebration.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to truly understand why your July 4th party is technically a late celebration, we have to rewind the clock a few weeks.
We'll go back to June, right?
Yes, June 7th, 1776 to be exact. Let's set the scene. We are in Philadelphia. The Second Continental Congress is sweating it out in session.
Literally sweating. It was a hot summer.
Right. And a delegate from Virginia named Richard Henry Lee stands up and effectively drops a bomb on the floor of the room.
A huge political bomb.
He proposes a formal resolution for absolute independence from Great Britain.
And it's crucial to understand that he doesn't just stand up and throw a wild idea into the wind.
No, not at all.
This was a calculated, albeit incredibly dangerous, political maneuver. The motion is immediately seconded by Massachusetts delegate John Adams.
The famous John Adams?
Exactly. And this specific proposal becomes known in the historical record as the Lee Resolution.
The Lee Resolution.
Right. And for all intents and purposes, this resolution is the earliest, most fundamental draft of the Declaration of Independence. It is the catalyst.
Right, and he lays it out with absolutely zero ambiguity. Like, Richard Henry Lee declared, and I quote, that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states.
Boom. There it is.
The pitch is made right there. But here is where the messy reality of history crashes into the romanticized, unified version we usually hear about in grade school.
Oh, the grade school version is very different.
Because the resolution failed. It completely lacked the necessary support to pass.
It did. The romantic version likes to pretend the founding of the country was this unanimous, spontaneous wave of patriotism.
Like everyone just instantly agreed to throw off the tyrant.
Exactly. But the reality on June 7 was starkly different. You had delegations from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and South Carolina who simply did not favor a break with England.
That is a lot of colonies.
It is. Half of them. And they were deeply hesitant for very logical reasons.
I always think about this moment like a modern, high-stakes startup pitching a radical, company-saving pivot to a board of directors.
That's a great analogy.
Right. Imagine you are the founders, Lee and Adams, and you walk into the boardroom and say, we're going to completely sever ties with our parent company. We're going out on our own.
And the board is panicking.
Totally terrified. Because that parent company, Great Britain, is their biggest, most powerful client.
It's their military protection, too.
Exactly. Their economic lifeline and essentially their entire global supply chain.
And the stakes were infinitely higher than corporate bankruptcy,
Yeah, literal lives were on the line.
For colonies like New York and Pennsylvania, Their hesitation was rooted in deep economic dependencies and the very real fear of British retaliation.
New York City knew they would be the first target, right?
Oh, absolutely. They knew the British Navy would come for them first. And Pennsylvania had this prosperous mercantile class and pacifist roots. They strongly preferred reconciliation over a bloody conflict.
Breaking away wasn't just a risky pivot.
No, it was a pivot that would invite the greatest military force on earth to burn their cities to the ground.
Wow.
It was literal treason, and the penalty for treason was the noose.
So you have this deeply divided room. The resolution is on the table, but it's doomed if they force a vote right then and there.
What's fascinating here is how Congress handled this exact gridlock.
Because normally it would just die, right?
Right. In standard parliamentary procedure, if a resolution lacks the votes, it dies on the floor. You vote, it fails, you move on.
But they didn't do that.
No, instead of letting the Lee resolution die right there on June 7, they made a brilliant tactical maneuver. They strategically agreed to delay the debate.
They kicked the can down the road.
Exactly. They pushed the final vote back to July whence.
But looking at the timeline, I mean, June 7 to July 1 is an agonizingly long delay when you're in the middle of a brewing revolution.
It feels like an eternity.
What were they actually doing with that time? They weren't just taking a recess, right?
Not at all. That delay was a calculated window for aggressive backroom politicking.
Ah, so they were whipping votes.
Exactly. Adams, Lee, and the pro-independence faction bought themselves time to drum up the necessary votes. They used those weeks to aggressively lobby the hesitant delegations.
Sending messages back home, I assume?
Yes, back to the colonial legislatures in New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Ah,
Essentially working to replace delegates who opposed independence with ones who would vote for it.
wow, just swapping them out.
Or pressuring the assemblies to change their official instructions. They were systematically dismantling the opposition.
And while they were doing this intense lobbying, they also realized they need to prepare for the possibility that they actually win.
Right, if they get the votes on July 1, they can't just walk out empty-handed.
They needed a formal document prepared to present to the world.
Precisely. They needed a formal declaration for the vote, a document that would expand upon and justify the Lee resolution.
Okay.
So Congress appoints what becomes known as the Committee of Five to draft this text.
And who was on that?
This committee consisted of John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, Robert Livingston, and Thomas Jefferson.
Wait, I have to challenge this narrative right here, because human nature and political egos usually don't work the way this story goes.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
Right. John Adams is the committee chairman. He is famously ambitious.
Very much so.
He is the loudest, most aggressive voice for independence in the entire Congress. Why on earth would he step back and hand over the defining document of his lifetime to Thomas Jefferson?
Who was only 33 years old at the time.
Right, the ultimate historical marquee, and he gives it to a 33-year-old delegate. The standard trivia is just that Jefferson was, like, the best writer, but that makes no political sense.
No, it doesn't.
Politicians don't give up the spotlight just because someone else has better handwriting or phrasing.
You are absolutely right to push back on that, because the best writer explanation only scratches the surface.
So what was the real reason?
What Adams did was a masterclass in political pragmatism. Yes, Jefferson was a gifted wordsmith, but more importantly, Jefferson was a Virginian.
Ah, Virginia.
Yes, at that time, Virginia was the wealthiest, most populous, and most powerful colony.
And the independence push was mostly coming from up north.
Exactly. The radical push had largely been driven by Massachusetts and New England. If this revolution was going to survive, it could not look like a regional New England squabble.
It needed a southern face.
It needed the full weight of Virginia behind it to pull the rest of the hesitant southern colonies into the fold.
Okay, so it was a strategic deployment of influence. Adams recognized that the success of the actual resolution depended on Virginia taking the lead in the narrative.
Exactly. It is exceptionally rare in history for a person with the most political leverage to prioritize the ultimate mission over their own ego and legacy.
Truly rare.
But Adams did. He recognized the political necessity of pulling Virginia into the center of the frame. He set his ambition aside, let Jefferson take the pen, and ensured the framework had the best possible chance of unifying the room.
And it pays off beautifully. I mean, Jefferson gets to work, and he composes this absolute masterpiece of political philosophy.
Yeah, it really does.
He finishes his draft, brings it back to the committee, and this original draft of the Declaration of Independence is officially presented to Congress for review on June 28, 1776.
So now all the pieces are on the board. The draft is ready. The 3-week delay they agreed upon is finally over.
Everyone's back in the room.
Yep. The delegates reconvene in Philadelphia at the Pennsylvania State House. The aggressive lobbying over the past few weeks is about to be put to the ultimate test.
It's time for the actual vote. And, the strategic delay, the backroom deals, the replacing of delegates, it all worked perfectly.
It did.
Because on July 2, 1776, the Lee Resolution finally passes. 12 colonial delegations vote yes.
With just one holdout.
Right. The only exception was the New York delegation. They abstained from voting because they were still waiting for final instructions from home. But the threshold is met.
The resolution passes.
It passes.
And I want you to listen to the exact language of the Lee Resolution that passed on that day, because this is the legal text that officially birthed the nation.
Let's hear it.
Listen to the absolute finality of it. It says, "These united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they're absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved."
Totally dissolved. Wow.
Yeah.
There is no going back from a phrase like that. You don't vote yes on a sentence like that unless you are fully committed to a completely new reality.
The bridges are officially burned.
Burned to the ground.
John Adams certainly understood the gravity of that moment. He was so overwhelmed by the passage of this resolution that he immediately wrote a letter to his wife, Abigail.
Oh, right. You're making a very bold prediction.
The very specific prediction. He wrote, "The second day of July, 1776, will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America."
So, if Adams is writing home explicitly stating that July 2nd is the day that will echo in eternity,
Right.
where does the 4th of July come from?
Right.
Did it just take them 2 days to find a printer and make the flyers?
This raises an important question, right? And it highlights the difference between an action and its justification.
Okay, tell me more.
What happened on July 4, 1776 was that Congress formally ratified and approved the wording of Jefferson's explanatory text.
Ah, the wording.
Yes. The actual action of independence, the severing of ties, the legal and political break from the British Empire, occurred on July 2 with the passing of the Lee Resolution.
So the break already happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
July 4 was simply the day they finalized the PR release. It was the day they formally agreed on how to explain to the world what they had already done 2 days prior.
Wait, so we've basically been setting off fireworks for a press release this whole time.
Pretty much.
July 2nd was the actual day of independence. July 4th was just the paperwork getting the final stamp of approval. That completely changes how you view that entire week.
It really reframes everything.
But separating the PR announcement of July 4th from the action July 2nd reveals a much bigger truth about this era.
Which is?
Declaring independence is one thing, but actually surviving as a new nation is a completely different beast.
Oh, it certainly is. Breaking away from an empire creates a massive vacuum. You have dissolved the old rules, but now you have to create new ones.
Which is terrifying.
And it actually took another decade. And the near collapse of the young country under the flawed Articles of Confederation before they realized they needed a permanent, enduring framework to survive.
Which brings us to the Constitution.
Exactly.
And this wasn't just any political framework thrown together to solve a temporary crisis. The sources we're diving into today make it very clear that the longevity of this Constitution is rooted in literal divine origins.
It wasn't an accident of history.
No, not at all.
That is the crucial takeaway here. We have to look at how historically anomalous the endurance of this document actually is.
Right.
In October 1987, President Ezra Taft Benson summarized this reality perfectly. He stated, "The Constitution of the United States has served as a model for many nations and is the oldest constitution in use today."
The oldest constitution in use today. I mean, when you stop and think about how many governments have risen and fallen since then,
Countless.
how many empires have collapsed, and how many revolutions have basically eaten themselves since 1776, the fact that this specific framework has endured without being scrapped is staggering.
It really defies the odds. And the source material provides us with the absolute factual explanation for exactly why this Constitution is so enduring.
It wasn't just luck.
No, it was not a matter of political luck or chance. It was the result of direct divine intervention and orchestration. The Lord provides the exact explanation for how this framework came to be. In Doctrine and Covenants 101.0, the Lord states, I established the constitution of this land by the hands of wise men whom I raised up unto this very purpose.
I really want to just pause and marvel at the implications of that.
It's powerful.
Because what this means is that the founding fathers we've been talking about, Lee, Adams, Jefferson, Franklin, they weren't just clever political revolutionaries who happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Right.
They were literal instruments of divine architecture. I think of it like a master builder.
Tell me more about that.
Well, when a master builder sets out to construct a house that has to withstand centuries of storms, earthquakes, and time, they don't just blindly reach into a toolbox and grab whatever happens to be lying around.
No, you'd want the best tools.
Exactly. They meticulously select the exact tools needed for the exact required tasks, like a specific chisel for the stone, a specific plane for the wood.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you really begin to see the unbroken thread of design running through this entire timeline.
You really do.
The fact that Richard Henry Lee had the audacity to propose the resolution, the fact that the initial gridlock led to a strategic delay rather than a total collapse of the movement.
Right. Standard procedure would have killed it.
Exactly. And the fact that John Adams possessed the exact blend of fiery ambition to push the vote, but also the rare humility to set his ego aside and select Thomas Jefferson to draft the text.
None of these were random historical accidents.
None of them.
It was the exact sequence of events required to lay the foundation.
Precisely. The journey from that terrifying boardroom on June 7th to the momentous vote on July 2nd, and ultimately to the drafting of the oldest constitution in use today, was the direct result of the Lord raising up these specific wise men.
It's incredible to think about.
They were given specific talents, placed in specific roles, and faced with specific pressures, all for this exact sequence of events to unfold exactly as it needed to.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? We've traced the timeline from a radical, deeply unpopular pitch in early June to a divine framework that has stabilized a nation for over 2 centuries.
It's quite a journey.
And it all started with a resolution, a formalized internal decision to break away from something powerful and start something entirely new.
Which is something we all face in different ways.
Exactly. Based on the history we've unpacked today in this deep dive, it makes you wonder, if you were to write a resolution for independence in your own life today, what would you include?
That's a great question.
What principles are so fundamental to you that they would make you break ties with an empire or, whatever forces are holding you back?
It requires a profound level of self-reflection. You have to clearly identify what you are truly declaring independence from, and just as importantly, what foundational, enduring truths you are building your new framework upon.
You're right. You can't just tear down.
Exactly. You can't just tear down. You have to know what you're building next.
And that leads to a final thought I want to leave you with, something to mull over long after we sign off today.
Okay.
John Adams believed with his whole heart that July 2nd was the true day of independence, the most memorable epoch in history.
Because that was the day the action happened.
Yes. Because July 2nd was the day the choice was actually made. The vote was cast, the ties were severed. July 4th was just the day they finally told everyone else about it.
It's an important distinction.
And there is a remarkably powerful idea hidden in that historical truth for our own lives. True independence, or profound lasting change, doesn't happen when you finally announce it to the world.
It rarely does.
Right. It doesn't happen when you post about it online or declare it publicly to your friends. It happens in the quiet, decisive, often terrifying moment when the internal resolution is made. When the vote is cast in your own mind and the old ties are totally dissolved.
The transformative action always precedes the public announcement. The internal shift is where the real revolution happens.
Exactly. The July 2nd vote is where your reality actually shifts. The rest is just paperwork.
Just the press release.
Yep. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the narratives, keep looking for the underlying truths, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining us for this day in His story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in His story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.